Hey everyone, it's Kabir here. So in today's session, we are going to understand few more concepts of our JavaScript. In last session, we have understood what are the events, right? Now, if you wanted to see how many events are present in JavaScript, then you have to go to your Chrome, your browser, any browser you can open. For example, I'm opening Microsoft Edge. Now here, just you have to do right click and go to inspect. Once this particular tab has been opened, then go to the console tab. Now just clear it. Yeah, fine. So if you wanted to clear, just clear here, right? Now if you want to see what are the events present in JavaScript, just type on. That's it. Now here you are able to see everything. You have to type on, on. So here you are able to see all the events that are present in your JavaScript. Now this is how you can understand how many events are present, right? Now each and every event have that particular requirement when that event is going to be triggered. For example, on click. So whenever you are going to click on that button, on click event has been triggered. So we'll be seeing bunch of events in our JavaScript series. Okay. So as of now, we have seen on click event. We will be seeing much more events. So that's what I wanted to say about the events. Today, let's understand about the loop. Now, what is the loop, right? Now, let me go to your notes and let me come down. Now, just for example, you want to execute some bunch of code depending upon some conditions, right? Now, you have one condition. Now, depending upon that condition, you wanted to execute some 5 lines of code, right? If condition is false, if condition is false, then you want to execute some other bunch of line, right? Some other 5 lines of code. If you get such a requirement like depending upon condition you have to execute the code, then for that we are going to go with the loops. So for like in the JavaScript we have so many loops, like we have something like if else, then we have while, then we have something like switch. Okay, all this we have. So as of now we are going to see today only if and else. So what if and else tells us, right? Now if is a keyword. Now it takes one condition. Now here you have to write some condition, right? Now this condition will return you a boolean value, that is nothing but true or false. If the condition is true, then this if block will be executed. If this condition is false, then you will have the else, open the curly braces, close the curly braces. Now this particular block will be executed. Now you have a condition, right? Now you wanted, whenever this condition becomes true, some 5 lines of code you wanted to execute, right? If condition become false, you wanted to execute another 5 lines of code. Then you have to write that particular lines of code in the else block. So any one block will be executed, and that depends upon your condition. If condition is true, this particular block will be executed. If condition is false, this particular block will be executed. So what is the syntax? First you have to write the if. Syntax is very simple. If is a keyword which is a reserved meaning. The keyword is nothing but which has already some meaning. So if, then you have to open the curly braces and close the curly braces like a function, and you have to open the curly and close the curly. It's simple like a function. Then else, even else will be something like this, right? Now these are the two blocks. This block is called else block, this block is called your if block. Here you have to write the condition, something like some condition you have wrote. Now this condition will return only a boolean value, that is nothing but true or false. If this is a true, this block will be executed. If this condition is false, then this block will be executed. Now this is your if and else. So let us see how we have to do. So let me say if else dot js. So here what I'm going to do, I'm writing one function something like f1. Now I want to say if name equals to ismart edutech, right? Then you have to print what? Console dot log of, yeah, it's right. Right now, if this particular name variable doesn't contain ismart edutech value, then you have to say else console dot log of it's wrong. That's it, guys. If you have to say if particular, so we have to define the name variable. So here we have to say equals, sorry. Now, why we are giving three equals, I will be saying in some other session, right? As of now, you have to understand it is an operator which will check your left side and right side. That should be equal. The value should be equal plus the data type should be equal. Now, we don't know what is the name. So I will be defining name here. So I will be saying var name equals to something like ismart edutech. Now, what is the data type of this name? Is nothing but string, right? Now, what is the value of name? Nothing but ismart edutech. Now it will check the value of name is nothing but ismart edutech is equal to ismart edutech. Yeah, condition is true. Plus, it will check the data type of this particular thing is string and data type of this one is also a string. So the condition matches means it is going to return true. If this is a true, then this block should get executed, right? So let me save it and go to terminal. Now in terminal, I wanted to execute it. So node if else, right? So first of all, we have to call this function. So how we can call f1, yeah, save it. Now we got it's right. Why we got? Because this condition is true. Now for example, I am just changing the value, so giving double H. So it is a ismart edutech, which is H is the additional character, whereas this is not equal, means they are not matching. So now as per our knowledge, this particular statement should get executed. So it's wrong, the statement is executed. Now for example, I'm saying it as 2, right? Now here I'm saying it as 2. Now the value of name is 2 and we are just comparing this 2 is equal to 2 or not. Now if I save and save, it's right, right? Now here what I wanted to do, I will say this is 2. Now this name is 2, but this 2 is a string, whereas this 2 is a number. So let's see what it's going to print. Now it's print the it's wrong because the value of name is 2 but the data type is string, whereas here it is its data type is number. So string and number are not matching, that's why else block is executed. Now if I remove one equal, now I am giving only 2 equals. Now if I execute it, now we got right, because if this is a 2 equal, it will check just value what present in name, it's a 2, here also 2, so it will give the statement as a true. I mean this condition will be true, but it will not check for data type. If you give 3 equals, then it will check the value plus it will check the data type. So now if I execute, now it's a wrong. So now you understood what is this. Just to see, this is called left hand side, this is right hand side, so it will just match whether this both things are equal or not. Now this is all about your if and else. Now sometimes you get a requirement where you have to give some additional color after uh, doing some actions on browser. For example, so let me create one more file. So this time I am saying dynamic style, dynamic styling dot html. Okay, now I wanted to write HTML document, so tab. So now we got the HTML structure. Now here I want to create one button, so button, click to change text color. Right, now here I want to take one P and I wanted to say something like ismart edu tech. Right, now we have something like in P paragraph ismart edutech and one button, that the button name is click to change the text color. Now as of now I wanted to give some stylings to this, so I will be saying style equals to color should be red. Okay, that's it. Now if you execute this particular statement, I mean this particular file, now you got this particular text in red color. Now our requirement is whenever you are going to click on this button, the text color should change to blue. Right, means you are changing the text color dynamically. So if you wanted to change the text color dynamically, then you have to go with the JavaScript. So for that we will be writing one function. So when that function should be called, whenever I'm going to click on that button, so we have to write some event. So on click equals to, I'm calling f1 function, I'm giving the name of the function as a f1. Now we have to define, so script, okay fine, now function f1, okay fine, now we wrote the function f1. Now this function should be called, so what this function should do, first of all it should change the text color of this paragraph P, means we have to perform some operations on this P element. So if you wanted to perform some operations on this P element, first of all we have to get the reference of this element. So for that I'm going to define some ID. So ID equals to something like P1, right? So let me come here and get the reference. So document dot get element by ID P1. So we got the reference. So now we have to catch that reference. So catch Pref equals to something. Now we got the reference. Now what we wanted to do, we wanted to change the styling. So here it is an attribute, the same thing. If you wanted to represent in your JavaScript, it will be represented as an object. Now how we have a document, a predefined object, and it contains some set of properties. In the same way, we have one more object which is predefined, which the name of that object is style. Okay, the name of that object is also style. Now this style will contain some predefined properties. So what we have to do, we have to take the pref, because we wanted to do some stylings for this. So dot style, we have to give the style object dot color is a key equals to, we have to give the color name. For example, I'm giving something like a blue. That's it. Now we are telling for this reference, for this element, change the styling. What styling color should be blue. So when this should happen, when this function is going to execute, when this function will be executed once the user clicks on this particular button. So you have to divide every requirement in small parts, and you have to understand its internal, and you have to go step by step. That's how you are going to code. So the coding will be very easy. You should not remember anything like I need to take document.get element or something like that. What you have to do, you know that you need to change the text color. Fine. Now if you wanted to perform some operations on this element, then you have to first get the reference. So we understood, first of all I have to get the reference. So how can we get the reference of an element? There are so many ways, but one way is get element by ID. So take the reference. Now once we took the reference, what we wanted to do, we wanted to change its styling. So we know that in JavaScript there is a predefined object known as style. So we have to apply some stylings on that particular element. So pref.style.color. Now this is called syntax, right? Syntax you have to remember. But okay, after element this line should come, after this line should come. This you should not remember. You should remember just concept, understand the requirement, divide that requirement into small parts as much as you can divide, and just follow each part and just club each and every part. Now this is how you have to code, right? Now I'm saving it. Now if I go to your browser, now if you refresh it, now if I click, now it changed to blue. So we are changing the text color dynamically. Now if you wanted to add some background also, right? So what you have to do, so whom you wanted to add background for P. So take P ref dot. Now you wanted to do background color, that everything comes under styling. So style dot what you wanted to do background. So background color, okay, equals to what you wanted to give some background color, something like yellow. Save it, come here, refresh. Now, as of now, whenever your application is going to load, it is in a red color. So once you click on that particular button, now it is changed the text color as a blue and it has added the background color. Now this is how you have to do some dynamic stylings. Okay. Now you can do so many stylings, whatever stylings you can do CSS, all that stylings you can do in JavaScript. First of all, just you have to understand what is the key name, right? This is the value, this is the key name, right? Now we know, we understood the object concept, right? Now this background color property is already present here, so that's why whenever you are going to change the color, it is not adding this property in style, it is just updating the value. So that's why the object concept is very important. Even it's in JavaScript, or else if you go for the Angular or React, then also it is very important. Now this is how we have to do the dynamic styling. Now sometimes you get a requirement where you have to create the elements, right? Now whenever your application is going to load, right? Now this application is loaded. Whenever this application is loaded, now here you are able to see one P paragraph and one button. Now your requirement is whenever you are going to click on this button, a table should come. Means you have to create that table dynamically. If you wanted to create a table dynamically, you know what table contains. What table contains? Table contains something like table tag, then it contains something like tr tag, then it contains th tag, it contains td tag. So you have to create all these elements, then you have to append this tr to this table, you have to append this th to this tr, then you have to create one more tr, then you have to append this td to tr. So many lines of code you have to write. Okay, now that we will be seeing, right? Now, as of now, I'm going to give a small example like this. Just I'm giving the example of a table that I will be showing this how we can create a dynamically table. Okay, so but it will be little complex if directly I show you the table example. So let us take a small example. What we are going to do. So let me take one more file. So create dynamic element dot html. Okay, now let me take one doc tab, right? Now in the same way we will have one button, simple button I will have. So I'm going to take one button and I will be saying something like create h1 element. That's it. Now if you execute this particular web page, now you have just single create h1 element, means you have just one button. Now my requirement is whenever I am going to click on this button, one h1 element should be created and one some content should come here, like welcome to JavaScript world, something like that. Okay, so we don't have any h1. That should happen whenever I'm going to click on this button, means we have to do some action on browser. What is that action? Click. So whenever you're going to click, when event is going to trigger, that event is nothing but your on click event. So on click. So whenever on click event is triggered, you have to execute one function. So I will be writing some function like f1. That's it. You can give any name to the function. Now I wanted to write a JavaScript code. So script tag. Okay. Now if you wanted to define a function, the function is a keyword. Then you have to write F1, name of the function, open the curly braces and the close the curly braces, right? Now whenever you're going to click on this button, this particular function is going to execute. Cool. Cool. So what we have to do whenever this function is executed, first h1 element should get executed, right? So first of all we have to create a h1 element. So now to create h1 element, any element of html, so you have a method called create element. Now this is the method which is present in your document object. Means how can we access document dot create element? So simple, document dot create element. Okay, which element you wanted to create, you have to pass that element. So I wanted to create h1, which should be passed as a string. Now this will return the reference, right? So take the reference of h1 ref. Now you have created the element. Now after creating element, you have to create a content. Now to create a content, you have one more method in the document object called create text node. Now this is also method which is a predefined method. Now this method is also present in document object. So how can we create? Simple, document dot create text node. Now you have to write a content. So I'm writing something like welcome to JS with ismart edutech. Okay. Now we have created the content. Now this content I need to attach to this at h1. So we have created the h1 element separately. We have created the content. Now this content I need to attach to the h1. To attach, we have a method called append. So how we can use that append? Append. This is a method, simple. Now in this append, which content you wanted to execute? Okay, now this content will return something. So I will say var content equals to, now this create text node will create this content and it will store in this content variable. So now this content we have to attach to this h1. So to attach that, we have a method called append. Now append method will take one parameter, that is nothing but what content you want to attach. So I want to attach this content, the content which is present in content variable. So I will write just content. That's it, right? Now this content to whom you wanted to append for this h1 reference. So you have to say h1 ref dot. Now this is the syntax. Means you have to take element for which element you wanted to attach the content dot. You have to call the append and you have to pass content for that particular append method. That's it. Fine. Now you have created h1, you have created content, you have attached this content to h1, right? But will this execute? Let's see, it will not execute, right? See why it will not execute. Let us understand it. Now if I refresh it, now you are not able to see anything. Now why you're not able to see anything? Because you have created h1, you have created the content, you have attached the content to h1, but where this h1 should be attached, you didn't say that. This h1 should be attached to this body, right? So if you wanted to attach to this body, you have to get the reference of body, right? So first of all, we have to get the reference of the body. So simple, var now you have to get the reference of your body, right? So I'm saying body ref equals to, now how we have something called like get element by id, a method to take the reference. Now if you don't want it to give any id attribute to any of the tag, you wanted to execute it, I mean you wanted it to access through its tag name, we have get element by tag name, plus we have something called query selector. Now that query selector method is also present in your document. So document dot query selector. What query selector it will do, it will access your CSS classes, right? Now whenever you say document dot query selector, and if you pass a body, it will just search body tag. Now it is searching the body tag. Now it has searched the body tag, and it took the reference of that body and stored in body ref. Fine. Now you wanted to attach this h1 for this body as a child, right? Now this button is nothing but a tag which is present in your body tag. It means this button is a child of your body tag. Now in the same way, this h1 should be also child of your body tag, right? So for that you have one more method, append child, right? So what we are saying, for this body ref, means for this body you append a child, and that child is nothing but your h1 ref. That's it. Now if you come here and if you execute, now whenever you are going to load this particular HTML element, there is nothing. If you create, now you are able to say welcome to JS with ismartedutech. Now if you refresh, nothing will come on. If you click on this button, welcome to JS with ismartedutech, means we are generating what you are doing. You are creating an element, you are creating content. Two things. Third thing is you are attaching content to h1. Third thing. Fourth thing, you are attaching this h1 to your body. So you are doing 4 to 5 tasks, right? Now in the same way, if you wanted to create table, so what you have to do, you have to create first a table tag like this, then you have to create tr tag, thcat, td tag. Okay, now in this table, how many tr you need? That many tr tags you need to create. How many td you need? That many td you need to create. So that's a lengthy process, right? So that I will be showing you in separate session, separate video, I mean to say. So now this is how we dynamically create a element. So now we have just understood how can we create an element and how can we attach the text to that element, right? In the same way, we can create attribute also. Now in here, like on click is nothing but one attribute, right? In the perspective of your HTML. Now this attribute you can remove, you can add, you can update as well. That thing also you can do. So how we have to do, just let us see that one. So here I'm going to create one more file, something like dynamic attribute, dynamic attribute dot html. Now let me take one doc tab. So here what I wanted to do, very simple thing, I wanted to remove this particular, just a minute guys. Yeah, now what I wanted to do, I wanted to take one input type. Input type equals to something like password, right? And I wanted to take one button. So button equals to something like show password. So as of now, we have created the input box and one button, right? So now if I execute this particular web page, now this is how we are able to see, right? This is one of the one text box and one button like show password. Now my requirement is, now here we don't have any placeholder, right? So whenever I click on this particular button, a placeholder should get added. So it means we are going to add an attribute called placeholder. Now when it should be added, once I have click on this particular button, means I have to handle. So on click equals to some f1 function. Fine. Now we need a script tag to write a JavaScript code. Script function f1. That's it. Right. Now whenever this function is going to get it should add an attribute to this particular element, input element. So it means we are performing some actions on this particular input element. So we wanted to perform some actions, means we have to get the reference. So how can we get the reference? Using query selector as well. So what I'm going to do, document dot query selector. Now query selector is going to match the first occurring element. So if I'm writing input, it will search for input and it will pick the first input element. Now if consider I have declared one more input, then this particular thing will be considered as the first input. So it will always pick the first input. Now if you wanted to pick the second input, then you have to pick according to the CSS selector. So how can we write CSS selectors? In that way we have to write the code here, so that we will be seeing. So as of now, just remember, whenever I'm going to use something like an input, it is going to search for the input and it is going to pick the first matching input element. So what is the first matching input element? This is nothing but this particular element. So now it will take and return the reference. So where input reference. Okay, now we got the reference. Now I wanted to add a attribute. Now if you wanted to add an attribute for this particular element, you have a method called SetAttribute. Now that SetAttribute is present in document object. So what you are going to do, document dot set, sorry, it is not present in your set at document object. You have to just write input ref dot set attribute. Okay, means you are setting an attribute. So now if you wanted to set attribute, now which attribute you wanted to set and what value it should have, because attribute is nothing but key value pair. So we have to pass the two things in this set attributes. The first thing is the name of your attribute and the value of your attribute, nothing but the key of your attribute, key of your attribute and the value. So I'm saying placeholder, I want to add a placeholder, right? Then comma, what should be the value, like enter password, something like this. Okay, save it. Now come here, refresh it. Okay, now if I click, now we got the placeholder attribute, means we have added the attribute dynamically. Now this is how we have to add the attribute. If you want to add any attribute, you have to use the method called set attribute. You can use any attribute, id, style, class, whatever you want, right? In the same way, what I wanted to do, if I click on that particular button, so I want to remove some attribute, right? So what I'm doing, by default I'm writing something like size equals to something like 70. If I execute it, now you are able to see the input elements box size has been increased. Now my requirement is, whenever I'm going to click on this button, placeholder attribute should be added, plus this size attribute should get removed. Now this size should get removed. Now if you wanted to remove any attribute, you have a method called remove attribute. So how we can do, so let us see. So first of all, input reference, because we wanted to perform one input, dot remove attribute. Now it will take only one parameter, which attribute you wanted to remove, that attribute key. So I wanted to remove size, so size ze, that's it. Now come here. Now if you refresh it, by default you are getting the size of your input is this much, right? And you have the button like show password. If I'm clicking on this particular button, size is decreased. Why size is decreased? Because we removed that size attribute and placeholder has been added. So we saw how to set attribute, how to remove attribute. Now you can update attribute as well. Okay, that is a easy, same set attribute only, we have to use set attribute only. If already something is present, then it will just add. For example, I'm saying placeholder equals to enter text, right? Now by default, we are going to get a placeholder as the enter text. Once I have clicked on button, the placeholder value should change from enter text to enter password. Now that's our requirement. So if I refresh, it's like enter text, right? Now if I click on this button, now it's a enter password. Now we saw how to add attribute, how to remove attribute, how to update attribute. Okay. Now this has been done. Now let us perform one small task like what I wanted to do. If I'm entering something here, right? Now, if I click on this particular show button, show password, this password should be visible and the text should also be changed. It should be something like hide password. Now, if I click on hide password, it should hide. Means we are performing some dynamic operations, right? So how a input is going to be differentiated from password and a text? If the type is text, then whatever we are typing that particular text box, it is going to be visible. If I write password, it means it is going to hide that particular text. It means we have to change the value of a type from text to password, text to password to text. Now that also depending upon what button we have to use. For example, now if I click on show password, then it should show the password and the text should change to hide password. If I click on hide password, it should show, it should hide our password. Means we have to write if else condition as well. So let us see how we can do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a task2 .html. Okay, first doc tab. Okay, we got doc tab. So now we require same thing, one input and one button. So I'm going to say input type equals to password and placeholder equals to enter password. That's great. Now I wanted to take one button. Now this button should say by default show password, right? Now let me give some ID. So not ID, let me give one on click. So I'm seeing on click equals to something like F1, right? Now my requirement is whenever I'm going to click on this particular button, it should show the password. So for that, first of all, I have to take the script. Now guys, focus how we have to code. Our requirement is whenever I'm going to click on this button. So click means we have to execute one function. So first of all, write function. So function F1. Okay, fine. Now whenever I write a function, what is my requirement? I have to perform some operation on this particular input, right? Means I have to change the value of the attribute called type, which in input element. Means we have to perform some operation on this input. So if you wanted to perform any operation, we have to get the reference. So let's take a reference. So I'm going to say document dot query selector of input. I took we can take ID. There is nothing wrong. You can use ID as well. So var input ref equals to, okay, fine. Now we took a reference of that particular element so that we can perform operations on this. Now my requirement is whenever I click on this button, the type should change from password to text. Then only the text which is present in that input box will be visible. So we understood if I wanted to change the value of any attribute, we have a method called SetAttribute, and that SetAttribute I have to call on the element on which we have to change. So I want to change on input ref dot SetAttribute. Now SetAttribute will perform add or update. It will perform add if that particular attribute is not present. It will perform update if that particular attribute is present. Now type attribute is already present, means it is going to update operation. It is going to perform update operation. So type, now I want it should be text. Now we have changed the attribute from password to text. So when it will change, once you have click on this button. So let's come here and refresh it. So let me execute it. So we have executed, right? Now let me type something here. So I have typed something. Now if I click on this button, now we are able to see Kabir, right? Means it has been changed. Now whenever password is going to be visible, that time here the text should change from show password to hide password. Means we have to perform some operations on this button. So first of all, we have to get the reference of this button. So let's take a reference. So where, so I'm going to say button ref equals to document dot query selector of what we have to say button. So now we got the button reference. Now I'm going to say button ref dot, what we have to change, we have to change the this particular text, and this particular text is called inner text or inner HTML. So I'm going to say inner text equals to hide password. Okay, now if you come and refresh it, now it is show password. Now we are entering some password. I have entered some password, right? Now if I click on this button, this text should change from show password to hide password, and this particular password should be visible. Now yes, we are able to do. Now if I click again on this, now we are not able to do anything. Now if I click on this, the text should change from hide password to showed password, and it should be hidden. So it means we have to write some condition. So what condition we have to write? If else. So I'm going to take if. So what should be the condition? So what I'm going to say, input ref dot get attribute. If the attribute value is nothing but type, it is going to remove, I mean it is going to return you the value of this attribute type. So what is the value of attribute type? By default it is a password, so it will be password. So I'm going to say equals to password, right? If the attribute type value is password, if this condition true, then execute this. Else what you have to do, simply copy this, paste here, and here we have to give the curly braces, because all this code should be inside your curly braces block. Yeah, okay, fine. Now this is the if block and this is the else block. Now we are executing according to the condition. If input ref dot get attribute means the value of this attribute type, if it is a password, then change the attribute to text and button inner text to hide password. Now if it is not password, if it is text, means it is going to be false. If it is going to be false, then change it from text to password and say here show password. That's it. Now save it, come here, refresh it. Now just say ismart. Now if I click, now ismart hide password. If again I click, password has been hidden and show password. Now it is doing. Now we are able to perform the task. Now this is the what task I wanted to perform. That's it guys. So that's all guys. Thank you for watching the video.